Hey everybody, it's Jeffrey Weddick from the Shooting Debris Sailing Podcast over at the skatepods.com. And this is our next episode in the refit of Lissadell, which is a 1987 O'Day 302. Not really refit, more of a recommissioning. She sat for almost 6 years. So, big steps have been taken. I'm prepping for launch, to launch the boat tomorrow. So I spent about 4 or 5 days over the past week or two getting the motor running. It's the Yanmar 2 GMF 2 Yanmar 2 GM20F. And I was kind of pissed because I bought a kit, with the impeller and supposedly the belts, and of course the belt, the big belt, did not fit. It was way too small. So I'm wondering if it was just made for no alternator, which I can't imagine. So I don't know why I got the wrong belt, but just luckily in one of these drawers back here was the right belt. So it might need a little tighten, but motor does run. It was a hell of a mess trying to get it going. I put the impeller in the first time, new impeller, and kind of scratched, the thought in the back of my head, I thought there were keys that you put in. Maybe it just works on pressure. I don't know. So I put it all together. Luckily, I couldn't get the fuel lines to bleed. Basically spent all day trying to get fuel lines to bleed, and I troubleshot. The connection was a little loose to the motor. Whatever, the filter, the lid on the filter, I don't think was put on quite right the first time, before that. Fixed all those things, and there's a little finger pump in the back there. It's where the lift pump is, and it's just worthless. It wasn't moving any fuel whatsoever. So I ended up taking the extractor pump that I used to suck out all the liquids. So I sucked out the oil, the gear oil, and the coolant, and replaced it. So I used that pump hooked up to the fuel lines, and then to the top of the filter, and then to the top of the high pressure body to suck the fuel through. And when I did the high pressure body, there's a plastic washer in there that went boink. So I was searching for that, because of course that's the one piece that's going to prevent you from running the motor. And when I was fishing around in the bilge underneath there, I found the key for the impeller. So that was good. Dug that out, installed it, put everything back together. So there's Jackson Marine is down the way, and Bay Boatworks. I went to Bay Boatworks first. They didn't have anything. Went to Jackson. They used to have a big store. They got bought out by Galahad, which is like a big marina place, I guess. Both Jackson and McDaniel, I think, got bought by them. So I went in there. I haven't been in there in like 2-3 years, and the store is just cut in half. You literally just put a wall up. So all it is really like a parts counter and a couple shelves. So I asked the woman, this is what I need. It's from a Yanmar diesel, and she kind of scratched her head and him-hawed around, and then finally went in the back. Came back like 5 minutes later with this old Yanmar box. Had a bunch of different parts in it, and just so happened there was a bag full of these little washers, so I bought a couple of them from her. Luckily, it only took me half an hour to go over there and come back. And I was finally able to get the motor running by using a bucket and a hose and a fill tube. Even the fill tube, I needed 10 feet of clear plastic tubing. That stuff's $3.50 a foot, something like that. I mean, it's ended up $30, $35 just for 10 feet of hose. So anyway, got it running. Ran it for about a half an hour. Revved it up, down, the whole 9 yards. Put it into gear, make sure it works. The only thing with the reverse gear, and I don't know if you can see it on the wheel there, but you can see the drive for the autopilot. Well, the handle to engage the reverse hits that drive motor for the auto helm before it engages in gear, which is kind of dumb. So I went down and tried to adjust the cabling, and I couldn't really get it to do anything. So then I realized on the handle is like a rubber end on it. You literally just kind of unscrew and pull off the rubber end and expose just the metal handle, and you can push that down and put it in reverse. So, you know, idiosyncrasies of the boat, I suppose. So today, I got the motor running the other day. Now the issue was the fuel filter for the diesel. Let me try to get out of here. It was an old Groco metal body filter, paper filter cartridge. And I wanted a newer setup so I could see if there was water or debris in the fuel. And you know, it has this setup here from Raycor. Basically, you buy that whole thing, frame, and it just kind of plugs into that frame. That whole cartridge comes out, and you just replace it. So a new, like, hardcore Raycor spin-on filter costs like $100 and $150. This thing, I think it was $38 for the whole thing, and then the replacement cartridges are $21. So I wanted to put that in. So that was my project for yesterday. Of course, after I get to cutting into the fuel lines is when I realized that the fuel lines coming off the tank and going into the motor and going in and out of the old filter are 5/16. This thing needs 3/8. So I ended up buying a squeeze ball fuel line at West Marine for like $45 because I wanted the squeeze ball to help prime the engine. And of course nobody sells 5/16 to 3/8 hose barb adapters. So I mean, I had to order one online, and you know, I'll get it on Friday, which is not doing me any good. And again, it's another $2 part that just completely screws you. Of course, you know, I should have known the fuel lines were 5/16, and then I needed to buy a 5/16 fuel filter setup. I don't even know if they make those in 5/16, but be that as it may, I mean, I spent all evening last night running up and down to West Marine, the other boat stores around, trying to see if they had anything. Of course, there's nothing. So I ended up just getting a 3/8 hose barb and forcing the 5/16 fuel line onto it, and then ratcheting it down with a, you know, I got out of the 4 or 5 kind of ribs on the barb, I got 3, and then hose clamped it real tight. So it worked. I had the motor running earlier today, and that's all I, like I said, really need. At this point, I just need to get launched tomorrow because Dobbs and Suzanne are coming over to work on the boat on a Thursday, like a week and a half, 2 weeks from now. Well, I guess it is 2 weeks from now. But since I'm working this weekend, I really only have one day off between then and go on vacation for a weekend. Next weekend, you know, a week and a half from now, going down to the beach for 2 days, 3 days, and then I got to work an extra day, and so I'm not ever going to get back down here to do anything before they're ready to work on the boat. So it basically has to get launched today or tomorrow. And there's a lot of people, it's Wednesday, actually here are leaving to go on a cruise for a week and a half, and it's mostly the people that drive the lift. So there's like literally one guy that I was able to text who's coming over tomorrow at around high tide to launch me. So you know, long time coming, but the motor was the main question mark, and it seems like it's working pretty good for now. Doesn't mean it can't be gone over. I mean, I went over all the hoses, make sure there was nothing obvious. You know, I watched it run, you know, went down, checked a bunch of things. It seems to be working fine. So, not that it can't be, you know, updated at some point. You know, the mixing elbow is looking a little rusty from the outside, but everything seems to be fine with it. So, that was my main point of concern. I have another point of concern. We'll go down here. See if I can get down here without killing myself. Now that I have a step out. There we go. So, back here, have, and I'll put some light on the subject, 3 through hulls. Head discharge, head intake, and engine intake. The middle one, I don't like. The piece of backing there is literally, I'd say, a quarter of the way dry rotted from the top. So I tightened the nut down a little bit so it's not moving or anything. I'm just hoping that that holds for the foreseeable future until I can get this thing out of the water again and replace it. I mean, basically at this point I need to launch tomorrow, so I don't want to do anything that's going to jeopardize that. So the packing, I took the packing gland apart, looked at the packing. I bought new packing. I was going to try and redo the packing completely from scratch, but again, I don't want to do anything by taking that apart if I can't get it together for some reason, then I'm screwed. So the old packing looks fine. You know, this boat's not going to get used that hard this summer, so hopefully it'll be fine when I put it in the water. I'll have to check the packing, make sure it's dripping properly, and I'll have to keep an eye on that through hull to make sure that it's not leaking. So that's about it. I just basically cleaned everything up quick, once over again. I cleaned out the head. There's a lot of mold up underneath there that I missed when I was doing the steam cleaning. So I don't know if you can see it, but I just hit it with bleach really hard and scrubbed it in. And, I'm not super concerned that the carpet is going to fall apart or anything like that. So it is what it is. All the electronics seem to be working, although there's still a few things that don't actually line up with what they say they are, that may or may not be working. But I got all the lights working, running lights. There's the masthead light that faces forward, does not work, but the anchor light works, and the foredeck light works. So I was gonna paint the bottom today. Now it's getting a little late in the day. It's like 5 o'clock, I think. And I could still paint the bottom, but I kind of decided, I think, that I'm going to skip it. There's enough bottom paint, so there's a blade of bottom paint, and it's not really flaking off except for like one little spot. So, the boat's only going to be in the water mid-June to mid-September, so 3 months. I'm just not worried about it. If it was going to be in full season, April to October, then I would probably redo it. But for now, I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to save that $100 and apply it to next year, because I already bought the paint. It's sitting in the car. I'll use it next season. And yeah, kind of over budget, probably by about $1,500 at this point, beyond what I was anticipating. So, I'm probably looking at, my original budget was about $4,500. I'm probably around, if I went through and I kind of lost track of some stuff, so I haven't been filling out my spreadsheet, but I probably am looking at around $5,500 right now, with another probably $400 or $500 worth of just odds and ends and stupid stuff between now and like fully functioning boat ready to go on a trip. You know what I mean? So it is what it is. Hopefully there's no major issues. Like, once we get floating, Dobbs and Suzanne are coming out in 2 weeks. They're gonna rig up some new halyards, do a few other things. I'll go up here and see what's what. I did pressure wash the deck up to a certain point, which you can see where I didn't get. And you can see the running rigging where I didn't get. And so that might be something I'm going to finish here before I go in. Yeah, we'll see. Got a new mooring out there. Hopefully that fits the cleat and everything. I gotta find a pin here for this Traveler. So it's been swinging all over the place because that bit keeps falling out. But I will do that, and yeah, so far so good. I don't anticipate too many issues. As long as the boat doesn't start sinking when I put it in, I should be good. Hopefully I'll come back tomorrow with the GoPro while we're launching it, and running the motor and all that stuff. So, you know, basically, I guess my takeaway from a lot of this is it's a process. Even if it looks like you're in dire straits on one day, you know, sleep on it, you'll figure it out the next day. But, you know, the $2 part is the thing that's going to keep you from doing what you need to do. So take stock of all your little parts and keep them handy, and don't drop them in bilges and things like that. And of course, you know, the 5/16 to 3/8 reducer barb just pisses me off, because, you know, there's umpteen hardware stores, there's 3 or 4 marine stores in the general area. None of them have what you need, and they're the 2 most common fuel line sizes. Why wouldn't you imagine that you would need at some point to go between them? Makes no sense. It's a $3 part. I had to pay $7.50 in shipping just to get the thing. Anyway, just pissed me off. But again, it's a process. I figured it out. I got it working. It'll work until I get that new piece put in. So that's the way it works. So we'll catch you on the flip side when we're launching the boat. Take care.